death to MATLAB. Welcome on this quick video with no cuts practically and no post-production because I don't have time for it. Very fine. What you see is a little program made in GameMaker. There is a certain, let's say, hero, considered of course only a point, but it could be also a 3D model with any features you may imagine for it, like orientation, textures, everything. Is the simplest case. It's a point for which it's implemented in this program that it stays at a certain fixed height from the level of the ground, because at each position on the ground the terrain has a height, and the way to implement the typical walking on the ground in a 3D video game or any related application is shown by this program. Ways to take into account the XY coordinates of the hero and assign procedurally each game step the correct height, which is the level of the ground plus something, the height of the head or a certain height. This program is very simple. Besides some basic procedures in the start, the initialization procedure here, which is nothing complicated. An image file is loaded, which is a 300 by 300 image, which contains certain tonalities of the red, of the blue, and of the green. The green is totally ignored. Only the red is taken and the blue. There is a very simple rule to convert these values into a terrain height. And there is another image, is map text, which is a little bit more tricky. The tonalities of the red are considered, which range from 0 to 255, and for each of these values here in this image file that texture is assigned, which had this cardinal number during the loading, because these textures were the number. Very fine. And of course this really doesn't play any role because it's just for trees on the ground, which actually are nothing. It's just made to make it seem better. And the GameMaker project is here, and this is the other alleged file. There aren't any big things, usual camera control, walking around, and is the most important here. Walking around this little piece of code here, and of course the rendering of the scenario, which again is very simple, but we haven't been mentioning the most important thing of all. In the step function, the two x and y coordinates of the hero, with respect of course to the ideal x, y, z reference frame with respect to which the whole game world is considered to be defined. Here, these x and y coordinates of the hero are taken, and this little script says exactly the height of the terrain there. And although the there is only a very limited number of height samples. There is this procedure which, let's say, interpolates linearly these voids, and while running the game it's almost easier to show it than to explain it. It gives the height to the hero just as if it were standing on a triangle. You can see it here. Let me walk in another place. Okay. As if it were standing on a simple plain triangle in the three-dimensional space, which is practically made by connecting these three sample points. Here is the sample height sample point, a height sample here, and here. The procedure considers which of these two, let's say, subtriangles in the G-square can be decomposed. The hero is within, takes the 3 points, calculates the plane equation which passes through these 3 points here, and gives the correct height. The function of x and y coordinates with respect to the game reference, which starts from here. As I said, this video is done in a hurry now. I can't write notes here, but okay. Why I'm doing this video actually? Because this script, it was a friend who asked me to explain how to do this thing in a game, and I made this script. I tried to isolate it in a single script here, which is not long but tricky. It may not be so immediate for some people, and of course it's just a good idea to let it do by someone who can do it and test it correctly, and therefore this program which does this thing and does it through this little well-tidied, isolated script. And of course we didn't do anything significant with this sample program, but it works. And if one would do an editor which does this, for example, slices a big image, does the textures, creates this map text image, composing colors, considering the indexes and so on, you can get a typical level editor. This could be already used to make a nice big professional terrain. Very fine. Then I've been knowing since the very beginning of it, practically not the beginning but from the version 2 onwards of this game, which is Crime Life 3, and I realized that the graphics here is beautiful, the environment is incredibly complex, and actually it's something incredible. Although this was made in GameMaker, and although people say often that GameMaker is actually not for 3D games here and there, sure, this game is beautiful, but one of the very few negative points that I realized in this game is that since I don't want to spoiler, I decided to not to start from a saved thing, just make new game, start new game. And one of the few negative points I realized here is that the whole terrain is flat, and I thought why it wouldn't be such a big thing to make it a hilly terrain and have mountains and hills in. but I thought that maybe the author of the game, which is Sakis 25, this video is a little bit personally directed to him. If you, Sakis 25, author of this incredibly cool game, if you want to implement the hilly terrain in some next version of this franchise, which is Crime Life 3, I can do also the script and the sample program for the motion of vehicles on a hilly terrain, and it's not computationally heavy and so on. So incredibly good game, and can do really lots of things. It's very complex game, very much believable, very high degree of interactivity with the environment, and so I'm sending to you, Sakis 25, this sample program I made in GameMaker, which contains the terrain. The terrain is editable with textures, and then someone could also make a level editor, so bidimensional, in very GameMaker, so it would be better, but well, now we have this texture, this terrain, but it uses now 32 by 30 textures. This is a terrain editor software which is now not completely ready, but one can compose these big samples and top view photographs of the situation, and this way, and just exclude by drawing some blue pixels in a bitmap file, exclude the areas which are not of interest, like these ones. Okay, and we have all our very well defined textures along a path, which of course can be very long, like tens of kilometers. By watching a little bit at the create script in create function in the GameMaker program here, the rules to get to create these textures and the alleged map text file, in order to arrange textures in a way that it actually represents some significant, some meaningful environment. The rule here is very simple, and by looking at these few lines of code at the create code, initialization code here, script or procedure or what the hell, and okay. Very simple. Actually, very high mountains can be done too, because one puts a certain tonality of the blue too, that raises the terrain of 256 units, and one can add to it a red component. This constant should be arranged in a way to be able to get all the heights without superposition, and one has these heights actually. There is an example of this in this very program, this very maptext file, this bitmap file, and so there isn't any significant limit to the height that one can achieve. So this is already implemented One could also consider the green component as an even higher as a possibility to define to be able to define even a greater set of possible heights. The other thing is that in fact doing the motion or believable or even a little bit physically realistic motion of vehicles on this kind of terrain, 3D terrain, I know it's not easy at all. So I can make a script with example program also for that in this section here. I take this program, which is a very small demo terrain, but has a polyhedron loading textures, okay, has a polyhedron in it. Oh wait, the hell, okay, a polyhedron. And its orientation can be changed. It can have any orientation, and of course the idea is that I can make script that makes this move as if it were a vehicle with 4 wheels attached in the right position, and instead of loading a airplane polyhedron, we can load a car polyhedron defining some vehicle. So the question is that since routine to walk on the ground is done, doing the correct vehicle physics is so. Here is this example where the terrain is random generated, but it's a hilly terrain. There is the vehicle, which is quite enough realistically simulated, and for the rest it handles similarly to GTA or Crime Life 3. And shouldn't be a big deal inserting it into the Crime Life 3's game engine, or how to call it. This is well tidied, of course. Sorry about it, I was in a hurry, I didn't have time to put the rotation of the wheels, make them actually rotate as if they were real wheels, even if I will do it, since again I can let's say readapt it from how I implemented it in Freedom 3D, and nearly that's all. Then probably you know it much better than me. Can't put any polyhedron here. In this game engine, the 3 versors of the reference frame of the wheel are available, therefore one just puts any polyhedron looking like a right wheel, a good wheel, into that reference frame defined by the 3 versors, and okay, while instead the rotation this way is done, of course, and the other things, friction and so on, everything is made in a way that it's very stable. Any vehicle can be modeled, non-articulated vehicle can be modeled fairly easily by adjusting the spring, suspension spring rest lengths for each, the other friction parameters, the parallel friction, the lateral, the and other things, very simple and also fairly realistic. So I hope it's useful. I knew that the presence of a hilly terrain would introduce some complications in making in a realistic manner the motion of the vehicles. That's why I took the procedure from my game Freedom 3D for the realistic motion of the vehicles, considering that I had made this procedure in the game Freedom 3D in a very simple way so that it could be transposed into any other programming language, considering that usually array operations, assignment operations and all these things usually are practically the same on all modern programming languages, and it isn't so dramatically slow procedure as it may seem. I did the hilly terrain with the correct height telling procedure, and thanks to that the herein can not just freely go around on the hill with a vehicle, but also do jumps, because it's not hard physics. So yes, of course there are approximations, but this is a reasonably good, let's say, approximation of the vehicle's dynamics.